So we have all of our assets imported into Unity. Now let's go ahead and assemble our building. Building 0 as referenced by our blocked out group inside of Unity. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and build out the walls on this building here. So to do that, I'm going to go to my meshes. I'm going to look for a wall stucco patch. I'm just going to drag and drop it into my hierarchy here. And it'll probably get put right there. It is right there on the origin point. So I'm going to go ahead and move my character controller back. And this is my character height guide I had going on. I'm going to move these guys out of the way. So here's our patch right here, and it's facing the wrong way, but that's fine. Why don't we go ahead and attach my texture to it? And we can go between center pivot and center right here. We can go between center pivot and pivot pivot. That makes any sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hold V for vector on the keyboard. And I'm going to go ahead and get it right on the ground as close as I can. And why don't we go ahead and rotate it out? So I'll just do 180 on my inspection there. And you can see it's kind of like clashing with our building right here. But that's okay. I'm going to make another little texture right here, or another material. I'll call this transparent matte. And I'm going to make it a transparent, and I'm going to go to my albedo and pull down my alpha, and then click and drag that onto my building here. So now I have a material that's making my reference building transparent, like so. And I think I have layers right here. Did we not set up a layer? Well, let's go ahead and set up a blocked out layer. So I'm going to go to edit layers. I'm going to call this blocked out. That's my blocked out layer. I'm going to select everything in my empty group here. I'm going to give it to block out. Yes, children. And then layers. Now we can lock it. So now I can't select everything in my blocked out. So it's just the same kind of concept, layers inside of Unity and layers inside of Maya. So now we just have to build this thing out. But you'll notice I'm on the corner here, and that's not what we want to have. We have an actual corner material here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my meshes, bring in stucco corner. There it is right there. And again, it's going to be kind of rotated wrong. Let's go ahead and rotate it by 180, like so. And just snap it to the patch I already had in, and just drag and drop my material on it. Now with both of these guys selected, I want to kind of move it into place. We're just kind of eyeing it right now. We don't have to be exact. And make sure we're a little bit below ground level so we don't have any seams at the ground. And from here, it's just a matter of duplicating this guy. And you can even duplicate two at a time. So I'm selecting that patch and that patch. I'll duplicate again. And if you remember how to use your snap tools inside of Unity, it should be a piece of cake. And now we're coming to this other corner. And we don't have a corner for that piece specifically built, but we can duplicate the one on this side. Now we can give it a -1 value. And now we have a flipped corner, and it's working really good for us, like so. All right, looking good so far. Why don't we go to layers now and hide my blocked out layer so I can just focus on my building. All right, so I'm going to build the sides of my building now. So rotate that maybe to 70. And we're just going to do the same thing here. In fact, I want to make this process go about a little bit quicker, so I'm selecting all of these patches here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Select all the newly made one, holding down Shift. I'm going to go back to my layers, and I'm going to compare it to what we had. Looks like we need a few more, huh? I'm going to select these guys right here, duplicate them. It looks like that'll be just enough. So now we need to do that on the other side as well. All right, so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and hide that blocked out layer again. I'm going to select all the little patches I just made, making sure I get them all. Now I'm going to duplicate them. But this time, no, that's not what we want. I think we want to do -1 in the z-axis. And now they're flip-split. All right, great. And I'm just going to inspect a little bit closer, making sure we don't have any gaps. Looks like we don't. All right, so now we have the base of my building built. But we have a really messy hierarchy now, don't we? So why don't we go ahead and create a new empty game object, and let's call this I don't know, level 001, and we're just going to drag and drop that all of these. So I'm holding down Shift to select multiple. We'll left click and drag and drop it into level 01. And now level 01 is its own group, and we can set its, you know what, maybe we should set its pivot point before we do all that. So I'm going to undo what I just did. I'm going to select everything in there. I'm going to drag it to the top. So level 01 is just kind of in the middle of nowhere right now, right? Not very good. So I'm going to go ahead and position it. And this is just the empty game object I have selected. It's just like an empty group instead of mine. I'm going to position it kind of on the back side here. That'll just make stacking these guys up even easier. So we'll apply that to level 01. Now I have level 01 selected, all of it, and I can just build up like so. And I can even duplicate multiples. So we're just exponentially just stacking this guy up higher and higher. How much higher do we have to go? Let's bring back my layers. So we're about halfway there, huh? So I'm going to select all my levels. Let's turn blocked out off one more time. And let's duplicate them all. And then hold V to snap. And there I have my building walls built. All right. So I want to make yet another empty game object. I'm going to call this, let's call this building stucco 001. And why don't we snap this kind of in the front here, or maybe on the front edge. This is just an empty game object we're using again. Let's snap it right to that beveled thing right there. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. So with building stucco 001, I can now put all my levels I made. I'll get them in order. They're going from top to bottom, but that's okay. And now I have one empty game object that can contain my whole building. So from here, we're just going to put in my damage parts now. All right. So we can go in and select individual parts of our corners here. But first, let's bring in some stucco destroyed 001. And it's already kind of rotated wrong. Let's do a 180 in our inspector, and let's apply our texture map. And from here, we can just select two random ones, it doesn't matter which one. Now we can just copy and paste them in, like so. All right, great. So we got some damage going on in our building. And you'll see it kind of expands all that stuff in the outliner, so you just need to control that. And we're just going to stick the damage in there, anywhere. All right. So let's go to meshes and let's bring in destroyed 002. Let's do a 180 in our channel box. Let's give it our texture mat, and let's put it maybe somewhere right there. Good stuff. I could refer back to this. Looks like we had two, like, kind of right there in the middle there, didn't we? So, actually, I'm going to go back. And it's not a total loss. I can just go in and snap these two right there. And there we have our two damaged pieces, kind of in the middle. Maybe it should be a little bit lower. Yeah, I'm going to put these down here. I'm going to bring these just a little bit lower. Actually, see how I'm just kind of just shoving things around like it's no big deal? There we go. And that's our damage on our first building. And then we had 3 on the other side over here. So why don't we replicate that? Our outliner is looking a little messy, so let's just collapse all these groups. Since we selected them, it'll automatically expand that. I'm going to drop it in there. And I'm going to pull up Destroyed 03, and we're going to do the same thing here. Except maybe this time, I'll do a 180, like so. And then a -1 in the X. And there I have my correctly flipped over guy right there. Let's apply that. And how do we have it? 2 kind of below this one. So maybe these 2 need to go. And I don't know, I'm just following this as close as possible just to get it to look as authentic as possible to the other one. So now we can start reusing some of these destroyed pieces. I'm not going to mess it in there. So I'm going to reuse these 2. Actually, yeah. I'm just going to duplicate these 2, like so. Give them a -1 scale. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to put this one right there. And looks like the other one's kind of up top. How much up top is it? Yeah, I'm going to put it right here. Oh, we got a little seam there, so we need to fix that. Make sure we're button right up next to stuff. Great. You'll notice that we get a little seams here and there. I found the best way to get rid of these little seams, you can see it like right down there, is just to zoom in on them and readjust where they're put. That one looks okay. We're just getting in there close and looking and seeing what's going on. All right, and that's the building here. Oh, it looks like we're getting those seams over here now, doesn't it? I'm just going to zoom in up here. Making sure they're all I don't know, Unity does that stuff. It's annoying. It doesn't correctly snap stuff in. We'll just live with that for now. All right, so that's my building made. I'm going to go in and clean this guy up. So now I can take my stucco building 001 and I'm going to make a prefab of it. I don't have a prefab supporter yet. I'm going to right click on assets, create, and call this prefab. And just drag and drop stucco building 001 into prefabs there. And it'll store my building like so. Now we need to worry about making our windows and our doors here. So I'm just going to go tackle the easiest one first. Let's just bring in door red. turned the wrong way, so we'll fix that. Right now, let's just 180 it, and let's just push it, put it right in there. So that's my door in there. And then we have to go in and start building out our windows now. So I'm going to go in and grab, what was that, window red boarded. So this is definitely going to have to be a prefab because it's not all the way built. It's just kind of like a worthless asset right now. It's just not going to work. We don't want to put transparent on there. So with it at the 0 point, I'm going to go ahead and start building out this boarded window. So I'm going to grab some of my meshes here. I'm going to grab wood plank open. And let's give it a material. What we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and just use our modular wood pieces that we've made. And we're just going to build out. How should I do this? I think I'm going to rotate it down like so. And I'm going to make sure it's kind of overlapping, but not too much. There we go. Come out just a little bit. All right, so that's my wood plank, and I'm just kind of leaving it right there for now. But I want to put a cap, wood plank cap. I'm gonna get a cap piece looking for me. Just apply it there, and this is gonna be our cap. What did we do? We rotated it 90 in that direction. So now I'm just going to position the cap over here on the end, and we might end up having to scale this so it fits nicely in. But we're gonna just go ahead and build out our wood just so we can. And I already have a nice pivot point over here, but I guess I'm building on that side. Why don't we go ahead and build it from the other side since I already have the pivot point set up. So I'm going to do it -1 then. -1 on the X scale. Because our pivot point's already on the right, is already on the right side of each point. And really it's just from here on out, it's just building, building, building. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this and build this out so you don't have to watch me do it. I'll be right back. So I built the top part of my frame here, and what we got is a little bit extra hanging over. So I'm going to select all of my wood here. I'm going to kind of position it right in the middle. I'm just going to eye it so that I have equal parts hanging off. And from here, I can just scale my wood the way I want it, right on the caps. Since I already have nice pivot points, it scales really nicely, like so. Looks like I have a gap right there. I'm going to fix it. And then I can fix everything else. Really love those seams, don't they? All right, so there's my border for the window there. And we can repurpose this. I'm going to select all my wood planks. I'm just going to duplicate it down to the bottom here, like so. And then we're going to build the vertical ones. We'll just go ahead and build it by hand. I guess I could duplicate the whole thing and we've done that, but I didn't really, so I didn't. All right, looks like we're up there. And then we're just going to have to like just butt them into one another, like so. And you can be a little inaccurate right there. That adds a little bit of authenticity. In fact, maybe I'll push that in a little bit. Give it a little bit of a hand touch look. And then I'm just going to duplicate an open piece. Then we have an open piece on either side. And let's rotate it downwards. And then we're just going to snap it. Oh, it went way over there. So that's not good. Snap the vertices. I'm going to pause it and go ahead and finish building the vertical pieces. And my window is built. I got the wooden frame nicely laid around it, and we have just another messy hierarchy. So let's figure that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new create empty game object. I'm going to call this window boarded or window red boarded, and call it prefab PSD. I'm going to take everything. Just make sure I'm only selecting my prefab window here. And okay, well before I group it, I need to figure out where I'm going to put this pivot on there. So I'm going to, if we're going to 2D view, I'm going to see if I can put it right in the center here. I guess that's the center. I'm just going to eye it at this point. Make sure I'm kind of right there. And that's a pretty good decent center point here. So now I'm going to select everything there, group it under red window prefab. You guess it, I'm going to stick it into my prefabs like so. So there's my boarded up window. Why don't we do the honors of sticking it on the building here? All right, let's see, how did it kind of go? It was kind of like, let's pull this out this way. Prefab there. And our wood isn't directly all the way in. Let's make sure it is. Just want to make sure we're inserted into. Actually, we want to just kind of just slap it, put it right in there. So there's no seams, no holes. All right, and that's our boarded up window. All right, now we just need to go in and make the rest of our windows right here, and we can create a few variations of therein. So I'm going to go ahead and just pause it because you guys already know kind of how we're working with our wood by now. And I'll just come back and show you some of the variations of the windows I've made. And I'll show you the process of putting the black behind it and making them all prefab. So I'm going to go ahead and just build them out real quick. I'll be right back. So I'm actually going to show you how I'm going to start making these windows. I'm going to grab all of my planks here and just bring them into my project view. I'm just going to separate them out like so. I have 4 different pieces we're going to be using. And let's go ahead and apply our textures to our windows here. And then from these 4 guys, I'm just going to duplicate from these 4. That way you don't have to keep going back and reapplying the textures and pull them into our scene. So I'm just going to make an empty game object here. I'm going to call this window original. I'm just going to place them in here. So anytime I need to duplicate something, I can find them in window original. So from these 4 little planks here, we have our open on both ends, we got our closed off one, and we got our cap one with just a cap on one side and open one on the other side. And then we have our broken piece of wood right there. We'll be able to make some, maybe about 3 different windows. We don't want to make every single window different. We'll do about 3 different variations. All right, I'm going to build those. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with the windows I just made. You see I have just a black patch inserted in them. I have each window as their own grouped up game object. So I made an empty game object, named them Windows Stucco 01 to 0003. And then I just kind of made variations thereof. So now I'm going to take all 3 of my Windows Stuccos. I'm going to drag and drop them right onto my prefabs. Let me just grab them. Yeah, looks like you only make 1 prefab at a time. And now it's just a simple matter of going in and placing these bad boys. So paying close attention to my reference here. So it's kind of in line with that second bit of damage there. So let's bring it up. Go ahead and grab all 3. Let me go ahead and position them where they should be against the wall. There we go. And then we're just going to space them so they're somewhat decently spaced apart. And just like another row here. And then this time I'm going to kind of switch it up, shuffle them up a little bit. Put two over here. Put one over there. All right. Make sure you're inset in properly. Shadows are throwing me off right now. They're not showing. They're showing up with a little bit of light at the bottom of the field here, but they are inset. You don't have to worry about that. And those look good. And for all intents and purposes, let me just see if I get a side-by-side comparison. For all intents and purposes, with the right kind of lighting and whatnot, maybe add some decals of damage or so. Transparent decals where I can get some of this damage modeled in or placed right on top of it. I'd say that we're pretty much done with our building here. I'm going to be using the same technique for all the rest of the buildings in the project, so I'm not going to really show videos. I'm not really going to show videos on those. And the reason why this building looks a little bit taller than this one is because I think we're just kind of zoomed in to like here in our game. So yeah, they kind of start to look proportionate whenever you zoom in, just the tops of the windows here. Um, so yeah, that's a really efficient building made with modular windows and whatnot. And from here, I think we can just make a new empty game object, and let's go ahead and call this. We're not going to make a prefab of this, but we'll call this building 000, and we're just going to put everything we made here right in the building 000, and that's our whole building going to work for us right there. All right, cool. So that does it for this series of videos on how to make modular assets to create an environment. And since I broke this up the way I did, I can make a lot of different combinations of stucco buildings. I can make them shorter, I can make them wider, I can make them taller. In fact, I can even come in, I can still go in here and adjust how tall I want this guy. But that would break my prefab. So you can always go in and adjust however you want on these guys. So yeah, I'm going to do this for the rest of the level here. I'm going to bring it up here. So I'll do the same steps here. I'll make the brick wall. I'll make these beams. I'll have a healthy beam section and a damaged beam section. I'll just make instead of a boarded up door, I'll have a roll up door here. And for this little guy right here, I'll probably just nestle two separate beveled edges here, like I was putting two separate buildings right next to each other. I don't know about this ledge here. I'll have to figure that out. And it's just following the same kind of pattern for all of these guys here. All the techniques I've shown you so far, I can make the rest of these buildings. So the next few videos that will come after this, we'll be learning how to work with transparent textures so we can create that nice fence right there. And modeling individual props like these barrels and these girders in the background. And finally, figuring out how we can handle this background, this back wall, and these skyscrapers. How we can fit those into our scene. And maybe the last video, I'll get into building out. Let me go ahead and make this visible. In fact, I can go into my blocked out. I'm not going to delete building 000. I'm just going to deactivate it. And first view here. You know what we forgot to do? We forgot to add sliders. There's a simple little fix to this. Instead of adding colliders to each and every single little detail in this building, we're going to select building 000. Let's call it 001. There's no reason to be so. And we're just going to add a box collider to this whole game object here. We go to physics, box collider. That means we're going to have to position our box collider by hand. So we'll just drag and drop it, or drag and stretch this thing out like so. We'll eye it at first, and then we'll get in and really hone in on what's going on here. So this one single box collider will allow us to control not colliding into our building we just made. And that saves a lot on the process. So, you know, you have to compute every single little window or every single little. I'm going to go into 2D view. So I need it really exact on there. And I guess we'll just do that. It'll help, hopefully. Yeah. That's just the camera flipping into it. We can always fix that later. And hopefully, when we start baking lights, those weird shadows, because it's looking like the window's floating, but I know I can set them in there. And that's our first building in our level there. And then, as I was saying in our last video, I'll be dedicated to making this bank view and maybe a river on it, or maybe it's on the ocean or something. I haven't decided. This is where the fun part of the level comes in, figuring out what's on the opposite side of that table. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. That's a good place. That's a nice little series of videos we just made. You know, modular building design inside of Unity. Stay tuned for the rest of the videos in the coming weeks.